welcome to King Axel's Movie Lounge. It's been a while since I posted, so I really want to get back into it. Start being a lot more consistent with videos. So today I wanted to talk about the new movie Weapons. I went and saw this twice actually. First time I saw it, unfortunately I fell asleep. That is not a critique or any uh evaluation of the movie itself. I work crazy hours. So unfortunately, I had to go see it a second time, and I took a lot more out of it the second time. I want to say the first time that I watched it had a pretty thick '80s vibe to it, actually. Um, I didn't really get that so much the second time around. At least it wasn't so clear to me. It wasn't so prominent. I didn't get like slapped in the face the first time that I did. So, but no, this is the new movie. It's directed by Zach Kreger, and I think this is his second movie. I think his first one was Barbarian, which I still have yet to see. I've heard both good and bad about that movie. So about weapons. So the movie itself breaks into chapters, right? I think there's what, six? There's Justine, Archer, there's Paul, James, Marcus, and Alex. Um, and then you have this main character named Gladys, and we don't really know exactly what's going on. So we break down the chapters, and it kind of tells the story simultaneously as opposed to linear. I think the best way to go about this movie to review it would be to break it down by chapter. Um, so with the Justine chapter, it opened the story, and we meet the character Justine. Obviously, we meet um Paul in this story. We meet Marcus a little bit. We barely meet Alex. This chapter is definitely a strong introductory chapter. This chapter would not have worked any other part in the movie, even though it is simultaneous with the rest of the movie. The way that they filmed it, the way that they told this part of the story narratively really was meant to be an opener. We are introduced to Justine, played by Julia Garner. It's the third film I've seen with Julia Garner this year, actually. I saw The Wolfman in theaters, I saw Fantastic Four in theaters, and now I saw this. Um, the story itself, it showed like she was the protagonist at first. And I felt like that's who we were gonna walk with the rest of the movie. Um, she had some flaws, some strong character flaws, absolutely for sure. Um, for example, she was kind of an alcoholic. She was willing to engage in an affair with a married man. Um, and she was very persistent on following Alex, which of course her motives were probably good, but that can definitely be creepy for anybody else. There is a reason why Marcus, who is the principal in the movie, told her why this is completely inappropriate, and some of the other things that she does with the children are inappropriate, even if they are in good intentions. Um, if I take a pause from that and give a little bit of a tangent, Teddy Bridgewater. He was a football player, and he was a coach, I think, for a high school team. And he was let go because he was giving like paying for Uber rides and food and things like that for some of the players. And I saw a lot of people like, "Oh, God forbid he helps the kids." It's not that. It's not that. And that's what I think a lot of people misunderstand. In this movie, it is very clear to see. I don't think anybody coming out of this movie thinks that uh, the Marcus, the principal, was in the wrong. I think everybody sided with him and was like, "Hey, no, Justine, you gotta chill out. You can't be doing that kind of thing." Um, but when it is real life, like with Teddy's example, it's like, yeah, a lot of people could view that as grooming or something more sinister. leading up to wanting to do something horrific and evil. And there are reasons why those parameters are set in place. You are not their parent. As much as you care, you have to have a boundary, a professional boundary, just like at any job, just like anywhere else, that is in place for a reason. And so for those reasons, we see Justine as kind of a bad person. And yet the way the story portrays it, the entire town is against her, all the kids went missing from her classroom, that sort of thing. And so you really want to root for her. And I was rooting for her. And then the next chapter, which I'm okay with, Archer came around. I'm going to stick with the Justine chapter, but the fact that it went to a different chapter, and then another one, and then another one, in my opinion, they kind of abandoned her for the rest of the film. Now, she does make appearances throughout. Those are mostly, in my opinion, little tacks to show why the film is being shown simultaneously. And she was there in the final scenes with Archer, and even was a pivotal figure in trying to find the house. What was going on. However, I mean, even when she, spoiler alert, even when she got her ass kicked, and Archer looks at her, he just runs and gets his own kid. He doesn't like say, "Hey, are you okay?" or anything. He doesn't care for her. He doesn't really give a shit. He just moves on and does what he needs to do, which on the one hand, yeah, I mean, you should get your own kid. Yeah, for sure. But at the same time, I feel like that action was more of a statement of the movie itself rather than Archer had. Because Archer had no problem with the decision that he made. He didn't hesitate. He saw her on the ground and then just moved on to do with the next thing he had to do. And the movie kind of did the same thing. As soon as the Justine chapter was over, you see her face a couple of times, enough just to say like, hey, this is where we're at in the storyline because you've already seen this before. Here's the other perspective to continue with that person's storyline. But beyond that, besides using her as a figure, kind of, at the end of the film, they really didn't do anything with her. Like, I don't know where she's gonna go after this. I don't know anything. So, yeah. So, in my opinion, I kind of would have rather a little more substance out of the Justine character after that first chapter. Moving on to the second chapter. Well, actually, before we move on, I do want to say overall, though, I liked the opening chapter. I liked the introductory scenes. Um, and it was very strong. So that's definitely a plus in the movie's direction. The second chapter, I also really liked. This was Archer. He was my favorite character for sure. Kind of for his stature, for how confident and pointed that he was. Josh Brolin in general is one of my favorite actors just because he's very tough. He's a very rugged person. He's kind of a person that you don't fuck around with. You take him seriously, you respect him. He just has that commanding presence. And so for me, Josh Brolin is one of my favorite characters for that reason. However, in this movie, I saw some vulnerability from him. He was kind of, he's weeping at his child's bedside in the dream or whatever. It was a dream. It was a dream. Um, and it was cool to see a little bit of range. I don't think that he pulled it off the best, admittedly. Hearing him call in kind of a weaker voice is not his strong suit, to be honest. There are definitely characters that can pull off that emotion well, or I'm sorry, actors that can pull off that emotion well, and definitely better than Josh Brolin can. But beyond that, that's a real small critique that I had. Overall, I enjoyed his storyline as well. It was cool that in the Justine chapter, we didn't see who was, basically yelling at the teachers' council and demanding that they hear from her. Um, but in the Archer chapter, Now you hear the exact same words and you can see who it is. So that was a good directorial route, I think. Good stylish thing that Prager chose to do. Um, I do think that he's best when he's angry, when he's determined. Being a contractor, he kind of did the only thing that he knew how, which was map the lines, to try to figure out where his kids are going, where all the kids are going. Um, I do think that he intentionally made a mistake at his job with the door to cover up the paint job. Um, there's a little bit of back and forth on that. Some people think that it was kind of a second thought. He accidentally got the wrong door or the wrong paint or whatever, and he said, "Well, screw it. I might as well do this too." I think it was the other way around. I think the paint was to cover up the vandalism that it is. Petty vandalism. I mean, nothing. We've seen a lot worse in movies for sure, but it is still vandalism. One of the biggest questions that I had though was, why did we see an AK-47? I think that's what gun it was. Um, floating above the house. In the middle of that dream. I think that was the dream because it goes in the house. And then wonderful jump scare. It actually got me when it went from looking at his kid just staring at him to Gladys. That was awesome. Um, but the AK-47, I get that the movie is called Weapons. If it was meant to look cool, it looked cool. However, there was nothing more than that. So I'm gonna get back to that a little bit later. But that one was kind of like, why is that there? And it was kind of disappointing that they didn't really do anything with that. The third chapter, we have Paul. Paul is a shitbag. Shitbag for cheating on his wife. The way he treats Justine, he's a shitbag for being a bad cop and having such a violent temper. Um, Now I'm not gonna get into a debate on police force because that's a very political um battleground right now. But what I will say is I appreciated the scene with his boss who basically swept it under the rug and said hopefully it doesn't amount to anything. Um, to steer that away from the police aspect of it. I feel like a lot of jobs do that. A lot of people get into it with maybe a customer at their job, and it's kind of like as long as nobody finds out about it, as long as corporate doesn't find out, if your manager likes you, if they're on your side, if the bosses, really count on you, and you're a good employee and you make a mistake like that, even one that's so volatile like that. And then a lot of times that is what happens. It kind of gets swept under the rug. So I appreciated that scene because it did kind of humanize police officers, in my opinion. Again, I'm not going down the rabbit hole. I'm not going into a debate. You can think what you like. It's not the point of this, but I just wanted to point out that I like that scene and it stood out to me. Beyond that, his story to me didn't really add much of anything. Um, I honestly think, and this is gonna kind of tie in with James, so I think I'll just cover that too. I think James was a really good representation of a drug addict. I definitely know that there's people way farther gone than he was. He was at least coherent, conscious, able to make some decisions. He was just, he was falling down the wrong path for sure. Another thing, kind of like the AK-47, is I don't know what Grandma Gladys. I guess she was the aunt, huh? I don't know why I said grandma there, but anyways, I don't know what Gladys was doing in the woods. Because there is a portion where he's freaked out. He thinks Gladys is chasing him, and it's not. It's actually Paul, and then that develops after that. But if I talk about the two chapters at once, one or two of those could have gone without. I think that was a bit of a padding. If it was just Paul, we could have focused on his entire story within Justine, and then the second part with James could have just been a random cop. You know what I mean? Um, and then if we skip the James one, it could have just been a random drug addict. We don't need his story necessarily. It could have simply just been a scene where, the reason that he even got into the house in the first place. But I don't think that we needed to have him break into the house, find all the kids necessarily. I mean, yeah, kind of, but I don't know. I just thought it could do without one of those chapters, in my opinion. I'll just shorten it up a little bit. Next one we have is Marcus. With Marcus, I really thought it was cool to see Benedict Wong in horror makeup. We're very used to seeing him as Wong in Marvel's Doctor Strange, especially. Um, I think that his chapter, I have mixed feelings because I think part of it was a little extra, but at the same time, it actually pushed the story a lot forward too. Um, and so I think I'm on that side of the fence with it because we really find out what's going on with Gladys. We find out what she's doing. We find out what her powers are. And just how out of hand she can make things. I think that was probably the strongest of all the violent scenes in the film total was him bashing the head in of the other guy. So I'm trying not to be Mr. Spoiler here, but I also feel like in order to review this particular movie, you gotta point out what you saw. So that's what I saw, and I thought that was probably the most violent and exciting parts of the whole movie. Um, and then we have the last chapter, Alex. I might be missing a chapter somewhere. I can't remember. I didn't take notes as I was watching it, so I'm really just trying to think back on this. Um, well, Alex, I think he's a really smart third grader, and we kind of understood that from the beginning, as we saw that he was, the victim of being bullied. Nothing too crazy, just little annoying things from Archer's son. I think he held himself a lot more together than most third graders would. I think he's really mature, and I don't know if any other third graders would react like that in real life. But I mean, to push the story along, I can kind of understand it. I do think that his chapter was the most important. It was the most revealing in the sense that it got the story to proceed. Everything else is really kind of set up stuff, but this is where we really get to the meat and potatoes of it. Um, he's now we find out where the kids go. Now we find out, what the parents are doing the entire time. Now we find out, um, pretty much why Gladys is doing this at all. Um, and then of course, the end, the resolution, I'm pretty sure was inside his chapter as well. So I do have to say though, I'm gonna count Alex all the way to the end as one chapter, the beginning of it. And while it was a great chapter, the second half is bogged down by a bad ending. Um, I don't think that going the route of funny was a good decision for Kreger. I would have rather something a lot more serious, a lot more sinister, a lot more scary. Just a horror movie. Let's not end it on something that's we can laugh at. I do think it was kind of cool to see the character get ripped to shreds like that. But again, I heard teenagers behind me laughing at this scene, and I'm like, I don't know, it was just really disappointing for me because I didn't want to laugh at this movie. I wanted to take this movie seriously. I wanted it to end on a super strong note and have it just mess with you, and you take it home with you, and you're like, wow, that was an insane ending. Not, oh my god. I didn't want to see that. So I really disapprove of the ending. Overall, I wish there was more of a motive for Gladys. Um, the reason that she was using the kids just didn't really seem enough. for me, I would have rather there was like she didn't have to rely on them because that was her only option. I would have she rather chose them for something really evil. Like we saw the gun, the AK-47. Gun nerds, please don't correct me too much in the comments. Um, we saw the floating AK-47 above the house, man. And so, what would have been really badass is had she made all 17 of them kids pick up a fucking AK-47, just start slaughtering people in the town square, just start mowing them down. That would have been insane, you know. And that's if I was the director, that's exactly what I would have done. I think a lot of people, um, that do these reviews, and I'm victim of it too. They're like, "Oh, you could have done better," but they don't really offer anything, you know. And there's a caveat with that, you know, because it's like I'm not a professional director. How am I supposed to know? And you are the director, and you're disappointing us. But that is one idea that I at least could have provided, and I thought of that, and like you know, as the movie was going. So I don't know. Maybe he was afraid of going with something that violent, that grotesque. I would have loved that. Overall, I liked the movie. I thought it was good. Definitely some flaws. I don't think it's the horror movie of the year. Um, Sinners, in my opinion, was. Everybody's raving about that. I have not done a review for that. It's been too long since I've seen it. I would have to see it again somehow. Um, but like I said, this movie. Oh, that's the other thing too. Why is it called Weapons? I mean, if they're calling it weapons because that's what the kids are being used as weapons, or all the humans even, that's just lazy, in my opinion. That's a really lazy reason to come up with that kind of title. Because it's super misleading and it's super low hanging fruit. You just grab it and it's like, oh, okay, well, we'll just chuck weapons onto it and make it sound cool. No, I don't like the title of it. I don't like the ending, and I didn't really like the motive for Gladys. Everything else, for the most part, was pretty good, though. I really did like it. I liked Archer. Um, I liked the scene when he was looking at all of the kids in the basement. That was super creepy. There was a lot of creepiness. There were a couple mild jump scares. I haven't had a major jump scare since I saw Alien in theater earlier this year. But every now and again, you know, I kind of go, ooh, all right, you know, move my foot a little bit. So, but yeah, overall, I'm gonna give this movie 7 stars out of 10. I would say 7 out of 10. So with that, I'm definitely gonna be putting out more reviews. I definitely want to get back into this channel more. I'm actually planning on a monumental kind of film history thing. So I'm really working on that, and that's another reason why it's taking me so long to put these out. But I definitely want to keep the momentum for my channel. I definitely want to kick it off again. So with that being said, if you would like, please comment below. Please like this video. Please subscribe. I know everybody on the planet asks that. But if you like my content, you know, why not? You know, that way you can see me all the time. And the more that you do that, the more it helps the algorithm, more helps my face get out there, and, you know, we can talk about movies more. So, all right. Thank you guys for listening. Peace out.